Without further ado, I present to some and introduce to others the Vice Chair of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus, our one and only State Representative, Brandon Ellington.
Before I start, I'd like to say all praise and honor and glory be to God, the most merciful Redeemer, the most merciful benefactor. And I also want to thank Senator Nasheed because he actually selected me to do the keynote speech, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your compliment. I want to go through a couple of words before I start. For those that don't know me, I speak out of my heart, so I'm not going to read the speech because it's better when you speak out of your heart. When we talk about Martin Luther King, we always talk about a dream. But it's important to understand what a dream is. A dream is a succession of images, thoughts, or emotions passing through the mind when sleep. Or it's something of unreal beauty, charm, of excellence, right? All right, civil rights. This is what he fought for. Civil rights, personal liberty established by the 13th and 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and certain congressional acts, especially as applied to individuals of a so-called minority group. The rights of full legal, social, economic equality, and it was extended to blacks. Human rights is what the civil rights era was about. Human rights is God-given rights. That's fundamental rights to everything that government cannot infringe upon. And the last thing I want to read the definition is equality. Equality, the same as having adequate powers or ability. Now the reasons I went through these definitions is because when we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, or when we come to celebrate him, if we're going to truly celebrate him, we have to celebrate what he died for. He died for equality, not access. We have access to voting, we have access to housing, we have access to employment. What we don't have is equality. But equality is not something that can be given by anybody. Race is a social construct, it's not a biological fact. So once we understand the social construct of race, and we understand the separation of self-determination and being codependent on society, then we understand what equality is. So we talk about the disparities that we see in the inner city. When we talk about the disparities that we see in the political process. When we talk about the disparities that we see in the criminal justice process. This is a lack of self-determination. I can't blame anybody of any other color for me growing up in the inner city. I can't blame anybody for me growing up in poverty. I can't blame anybody for the things that I did as a child, because I did these off of the misinformation that came through the inner city. But what I can blame is those that was before me that didn't teach me what equality was. Equality is not me begging for a piece of bread. Equality is me creating my own bread, or creating my own institutions, or creating my own structures. And this is what we have to do if we want to be equal. We can't beg for handouts. We have to have self-determination. So when we talk about biased institutions, there's nothing wrong with creating your own institution. But this is something that we fail to do as so-called minorities. When we talk about the injustice in the criminal justice system, there's nothing wrong with changing the laws. But we have to get involved in the political arena to do that. We have to become attorneys to do that. We have to become teachers to do that. We have to become law professors to do that. I can't expect anybody to teach me anything about myself if I'm unwilling to research it myself. And that's the problem that I see further when we talk about the so-called minority community. Dr. Martin Luther King and countless others died for equality, not access. And today we're still fighting for access when we have access, as opposed to taking ownership and actually being equal. I can't be mad at anybody for having national pride. And what I mean by national pride is obvious that I'm black. I have no problem saying that I'm black. But I also don't have a problem with somebody else saying they're white or fighting for issues that are germane to their community, because I believe in equality. I don't feel inferior if somebody came in here with a white hood on. I'm cool with that, as long as he doesn't disrespect me. Then I'm going to show him equally what type of respect that I believe I deserve. And when we come to celebrate, I have children. If I died for my children to go to college, and my children didn't go to college, and every day on my birthday they showed up with my grade, I would not be happy. That's not honoring. Now, if my children went to college for what I died for, then I can consider that a celebration. So it's a good thing that we can come together and we can sit and we can celebrate. But if we're going to truly celebrate celebrate, and we're going to truly honor, then we have to live the life that these people died. And I'm not just talking about Martin Luther King, I'm talking about everybody that died that wasn't recognized. Because he was one of the ones that was blessed to be recognized for what he believed in, but it was countless others that died that would never be recognized for equality. And in 2013, we still begging for the same thing. When you look at St. Louis, you look at Kansas City, you look at the disparities in the educational arena, what are we doing to change that? When we talk about the disparities in the economic, the difference in economics, we can control our own institutions. We can support our own dollars, but we don't do this. So I can't be mad at somebody for not hiring when we're not building jobs in our own community. I can't do it. I can't be mad at other legislators not filing legislation that would overtly benefit so-called minorities. If the so-called minority, I'm not just talking about the minorities here, or the so-called minorities here. I'm looking at all 50 states. The so-called minorities aren't putting their foot forward. You hear a lot of people complain about Obama and what he hasn't done. But politics is an institution, right? So if we're not doing it at the state level, we're not doing it at the city level, we're not doing it at the county level, you're not going to see it. So we can't say that we got a black president and now we equal when we still begging for me. If I come and sit down at the table and 4 people in front of me with a plate and I don't put nothing on my plate, I can't consider myself a diner. And my whole message tonight is self-determination. I hope that when we leave here, we decide to truly honor Dr. Martin Luther King and not beg for equality, but walk like we equal, treat others like we want to be treated, and do for our community the things that we know need to be done for it, and not beg anybody else for it. I can't be mad that Ryan doesn't know how to cross the ball over. I just I had to get on the last. But that's what it means to me. That's why I was honored by Senator Nasheed asking me to come up and speak. Because when we talk about equality, when we talk about the disparities in the minority community, the so-called minority in America has nobody to blame but the so-called minority. When we talk about this pre-Second Reconstruction, we didn't have access. We didn't have access to that. We didn't have access to equal housing. But we got that. Even when we look at after the first Reconstruction, we see the successes the so-called minority community had. But then we wanted to assimilate into another society in which we lost self-determination. So again, what I would like y'all to get from me is to remember and honor Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton, Stokely Carmichael, and all the others that came before us that talked about self-determination, that lived self-determination. And let's stop faking like we equal until we actually start putting our pants on like everybody else. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. And again, I'm honored.
Thank you.
Yet our best trained, best educated, best equipped, best prepared troops refuse to fight. Matter of fact, it's safe to say that they would rather switch than fight.